I loved that I upgraded my components, and it would but it would never match my PC. I was just at the performance of my PC. It just didn't feel right. The screen was just way too big. The screen was too big, and the handheld was too bulky. Like, I miss the days of really small handhelds that had optimized experiences for handhelds, like the Nintendo DS, the original PSP. The Vita was pretty good too. The Vita was a little bigger, but it was pretty good, right? And then things like the Game Boy Advance. I think the Game Boy Advance was peak, right? They somehow made 32-bit cartridges fit full 3D polygonal 2D, like 32-bit games. Right? There were 32-bit games that were built in a way to look 3D. Something like Max Payne, all of the Need for Speed games with the buildings being standing, but they're actually just like flat polygons with like textures on them, right? Like flat map, texture map packs, basically. I'm trying to think of another one. Dragon Ball Z Taiketsu with its like claymation looking style. Shit, there was a lot of games that were like pretty good looking. I think there was even like an old Power Rangers game that looked kind of 3D, but it wasn't, right? Like they were all technically 32-bit flat games. But the compromised hardware, it being the hardware being small was really a marvel, right? It feels like the gaming handheld PCs are so big now. And yeah, they can fit a lot of games, but they still don't fully compare to a powerful PC. Right, you spend $1,000 now, which it didn't used to be, on a Lenovo Legion Go, and you get GTX 1650 level laptop performance, like a GTX 1650 or like a GTX 1650 like Max Q. I have a classic game store nearby. I just got a Nintendo 2DS for some odd reason. I prefer the 2DS over 3DS. I also like the doorstop. Hey, that's cool. I'm glad two of us like the doorstop, bro. I'm a doorstop aficionado. I'm a big fan. Right, something I think about is how we're progressing in a direction where the gaming handheld PCs are getting bigger, right? Like the Steam Deck is so big, and the community has like outcried for like a Steam Deck Mini for years, to the point where now people are just taking gaming Android handhelds and turning them into little Steam Deck Minis, right? By putting Game Hub or Game Native with like ESDE as the front end to make it feel like you're getting a smaller Steam Deck experience with some of the games that really you're going to play on your Steam Deck anyway, right? You're not playing the big, I mean, you can play the big AAA games, but a lot of times you're not trying to use your Steam Deck in a way to play those big AAA games. So having all of that hardware, all that bulk doesn't feel very good. There are times where I definitely want to use my Legion Go, but it's so big, so I end up playing big games. I'm like, I want to play a big game because this device is so big. And I know it's probably some sort of a mental thing, but it just feels as if I'm wasting the screen size, I'm wasting the hardware if I'm not using it to like the best of its ability by playing something that's worthwhile on like such a big device. While something smaller back in the day, like a Nintendo 3DS, a Game Boy Advance, a Game Boy, a PSP, right? Those things were meant to play smaller, more reeled-in experiences that almost felt like a Nintendo. What the fuck? Where's my... Oh, it's right here. I forgot my inventory auto swaps. That's really cool. That's meant to play a more... I don't want to call it a compromise, but more optimized for the device experience. There was so many cool ports of like games that wouldn't have run on a PSP without some sort of downscaling, or on a Game Boy Advance without some sort of complete reworking. The Game Boy Advance had Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. It shouldn't have, but it did, right? The team created a version of the game that would work. It shouldn't have had that shit, but it was very cool that it did. I love that shit. That shit was tight. Okay. Coming to steal my kill, are we? Oh, they're over there, 300 meters. That's really far. Nice. Straight fire? Yeah. I definitely understand that. I recently just bought a Game Boy Advance that came with mods like the screen, the ability to have a Type-C charger. It's insane. Like, how did I not live without this? And some of those games hold up very well today. Like, some of those games do not suck, right? They're antiquated. They're on older hardware that doesn't particularly have the most modern of features, but the games were designed in a way where they're meant to work on that hardware and they're meant to work for that hardware, and it feels good. I like those experiences. Like, more developers should create games that are meant to feel like they're supposed to run on the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally or the Legion Go, right? We just take these big full-scale experience games and want them to work on these smaller devices. So the smaller devices have to be compromised and feel way too large for their size or way too small to play some of the bigger games. And there's even newer devices getting bigger and bigger, right? The Lenovo Legion Go 2, I want it so bad. $2,000 for the high scale one. But an 8.8-inch screen? 8.8. That's huge. That's so big. What do you mean? That's almost a laptop. There's like 10-inch, like a little production and like beater laptops. You're telling me you want me to walk around with an 8.8-inch device? $1,000 insane is $2,000, which is even crazier, isn't it? I think you can hold 3 slices of pizza, or is it 4? You can hold 3 slices of pizza. Okay. Yeah, like $1,000 is the base Legion Go right now. The base Legion Go 2. The Legion Go S Z1 Extreme is $1,000. These companies are insane. The cost of hardware is so high. It's not really entirely the company's fault, and we're going to talk about that later because this is kind of an impromptu yap session because I just love fucking talking. I don't know when to shut the hell up. But the Steam Deck is even more expensive now than it was before, right? Valve re-released the Steam Deck and at like a 40+% increase. And it sold out first day. Like, everyone's like, oh, dude, they killed the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck's dead. The Steam Deck is over with. Valve's gone crazy with this. And then it sold out in the first day. It sold out. It's the chips. Yeah, it's the RAM chips. It's the storage. Like, NAND flash storage is expensive. It's a lot of things. And it's a market where you can't really feasibly release anything unless it's overpriced, right? You could like not release anything. Your option is A, don't release anything, or B, release something extremely overpriced and just hope to God people want it enough that they'll buy it. Like the Steam Deck at its current price. The Steam Deck at its current price is, if I'm quite honest, far too expensive for the amount of power it has. I just bought like a GTX 1650 Max-Q laptop with a 10th gen i5 for like $180. What the fuck do you mean? You want me to spend $200? No, I'm sorry. You want me to spend $500 more than that, about roughly. That's crazy. I got mine when it was $500. Yeah, I think $500 was a reasonable price. The problem is the Steam Deck has always been, of course, very it's always been very subsidized. And if they're still subsidizing it and that's the best they can do, it almost feels like they just shouldn't have re-released it, right? But it's still selling well enough that it doesn't matter. No one's saying no, like, I mean, there are people saying no, but they're obviously wrong because it sold out. It's an anti-consumer move. I don't like it. I think it kind of sucks, but it's the way of the land. If you want to be able to get a Steam Deck today and you don't want to buy used, that's your option, because it was either that or they stopped selling it completely. I do think that if they could have, they should have, you know, kept the LCD 256 gigabyte model. That's one thing I would have wished for. But of course they didn't. So because of that, this is what we deal with. This is the lifestyle we got. All right, but talking on the Steam Deck and talking on the Lenovo Legion Go and the ROG Ally, Xbox Ally, they're so big. They're huge, right? In comparison to older gaming handhelds that, oh, this is actually dead. I do not have anything on it. I'm stuck. I want to get out of the water. There's a guy right there. Right, in comparison to the older handhelds of yesteryear that were dedicated handhelds made by a company like PlayStation or Nintendo, these handhelds are huge. I love them, to be fair. Like, right, I'm a PC guy more than a console guy. I really don't want to go back to a console if I don't have to, but they just feel so big. It feels like a mockery to gaming handhelds. It doesn't feel like you're really playing a gaming handheld. because of how insanely big they are. They are gaming handhelds. They're just not like really portable gaming handhelds. They're like couch handhelds or car ride handhelds. They're not pull that shit out in the line at Subway or Walmart or your local, I don't know, grocery store that's not Walmart, because I have HEB. I live in Texas. Yeehaw, wee doggy. I'm not going over there. I think I'm just going to avoid that situation completely. Oh, gosh. I took damage. That sucks. I've had the same Alienware laptop since 2015. I just updated it as I go. It's cheaper to mod than buy a new laptop now. It is, but there's also only so much you can do with a laptop from 2015, right? Like, even if it was the highest end laptop from 2015, it will be antiquated eventually. 2015's, 11 years ago, right? So if you 2015 would have been what? The 10 series? So if it has like a GTX 1080 or 1070 in it, I mean, you don't have access to hardware ray tracing. Some games really need those tensor cores and those RT cores for certain features, and that sucks. So like a lot of people will move from an old laptop, right? Maybe not high-end laptop. They'll move from like an old 960 PC, 970 PC, or 1060 laptop to something like a Steam Deck. And it felt like a reasonable moving point, right? Because you get the portability of a handheld. I have to put that in quotations. But you also get the power of like something that could have played the same games you were playing then, but in a more modern package with better yields. Oh, let me buy those. There we go. I don't know if I'm going to win this game. I didn't win the last one. I like gaming handled PCs. I just think they're too big. We have so many options on the market, and they're all just massive, right? We don't have any big companies like the Lenovo's, the Asus, the MSI, trying to create something smaller. It doesn't even matter if particularly it's hard to replicate the full scope of the strength of gaming handhelds, right? Like, some people don't want a massive gaming handheld. Some people want something smaller that just plays lighter weight things. That's okay. Like, there's nothing, not everything has to be the biggest imaginable and has to play every game under the sun. Some people are fine with playing smaller games. Matter of fact, they want to play smaller games on their device. They're not using their device for giant games. They're using their device for games that reasonably make sense for something so small. People buy Steam Decks, and Steam Decks can play a whole lot of everything, right? Like, honestly. But there's so many games you just don't play. I couldn't hear you. I was replying to commercials. Oh. There's so many games that reasonably people could play on their Steam Deck, but won't because of how small the screen is. So the text is hard to read. Or, you have to turn the graphics settings down just a little too much for people who really want to enjoy the game. So having a part of the market where they worry more about smaller handhelds would be really nice. Damn, that guy got fried. That sucks. Oh, they're rivalry master too? That's crazy. Uh-oh. Let me get away from that. I would love like a Steam Deck Mini in the future. Right, even if it ends up costing the same amount and is slightly weaker than the traditional Steam Deck that currently exists. Or when they do a Steam Deck 2, I hope they do a Steam Deck 2 Mini. Same way they've done like a Switch Lite a long time ago. I don't know if we'll ever get a Switch 2 Lite. I hope we get smaller versions of Lenovo's handhelds and Asus's handhelds. We really do. Like, it would feel better playing some of these smaller lightweight games on something that small instead of having to move over to using an indie Get off me, bro. You were chasing that guy and then you see me, so now you're like, oh, I'm gonna chase this guy instead. Eat dick. I'm getting chased by 2 people. This is fucking dog shit. This is fucking dog shit. I'm being chased by 2 people. Can you guys stop and fight each other, please? I got my wife a Switch 2. We traded a lot of our old stuff for it. I think we only paid like $150 for the console. Yeah, I mean, but it's bigger, right? I think it has the same problems. I'm sorry, I stopped yapping for a little bit. I have to get away from those guys. It has the same problem that the traditional consoles have, the traditional handheld PCs, is that the Switch 1 was smaller, and now we have a Switch 2 that's bigger. It's more powerful, but it's bigger. And I honestly don't think it needed to be much bigger or bigger at all to have more power. It's so slim. Obviously, the SoC is fine and isn't being cooked alive. It didn't need to be bigger. They just made it bigger because the trend currently is bigger handhelds. That sucks. I hate that. I want smaller handhelds. I think that shit's high. I have one of the biggest handhelds possible on the market, right? I have the original Lenovo Legion Go with like an 8.4-inch screen or some shit. It's big. And I like it. I'm a fan of it, but it'd be cool to have something smaller as well. A long time ago, I used to have an AYN Loki. I think they're a 6-inch screen device, so they're smaller than an ROG Ally. 6 inches is like a reasonable size. But listen, brothers, I don't care what the ladies tell you. 6 inches is a reasonable size. Yuck. Right? I agree. I also prefer small. That's what I'm saying, bro. They're just too big nowadays. These gaming handhelds are getting way too out of control with how big they are. And it sucks. We're losing a part of the market for what feels like no reason. I'm trying to rotate around the storm. That's what she said? Yeah. I don't care what anyone tells you, brothers. 6 inches is reasonable. I think I'm going to take this car and drive up the hill. I'm going to sit in it for a second and then drive up the hill as I need to. My car's also over here. Oh shit, it's low fuel, it's low fuel. Do we make it? Do we make it? Do we make it? Two people left? Where's the last guy? I guess I could just wait for the circle to get real small. Because obviously it will. I could do some hazards this shit real quick. Wee doggy. Right now, if I don't see him, oh my gosh. If I don't see him, I'll just wait for the circle to get smaller. I don't know. I'm just kind of I'm jaded to how big these handhelds have gotten, right? Like, obviously, there's a market for them or they wouldn't be selling them. But boy, howdy, does it suck that it's basically all we have. When we could have, like, a more diverse market. The same way we used to have a more diverse market of gaming handhelds before, right? We had the PSP if you wanted something a little bigger with like more AAA gaming experience, and we had the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS, right? We had multiple options from different companies, different big name brands that really made the I'm good. Fuck, he got me. This guy's so pussy. Where's he at? I wonder. You guys think we can win this? I have to just Dukes of Hazards this shit, huh? I don't have time. I actually hate that he started a rivalry and then, like, after he got the last kill, so I just have to, like, drive into him. He missed me. You see me, though, bro. Like, you know exactly where I am. Stop being a fucking coward. Got him. Why was he being a coward? I don't understand. What the hell? What's your problem, bro? Yeah, thanks for yapping with me. I appreciate you. This guy was being so pussy. Oh my goodness. All to lose? Dude. How dare he?